So welcome to the Node.js Node API team meeting for June 13th, 2025. I guess it's Friday the 13th. Anyway, before we get started, does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share? No? Okay, I can share the backlog here.
I only can say that there is some development I'm working on for last several weeks. Apparently, like Hermes team, Hermes engine team, core team, they really want to kind of me finish up with Node API implementation to merge to the main repo. It's very exciting
Yeah,
because last few years it was mostly in our Hermes Windows fork. We use it for some time, and I'm kind of working hard towards cleaning up the code to make it really pull request ready for being able to push to this upstream repo.
okay.
So hopefully, like any day, like any coming week, it might happen. But it's a lot of interest right now in community that Hermes Engine and React Native in generally, there's some development going on that to adopt Node API. So
Cool.
just it's still work in progress, but it's already some conferences, presentations talking about this development. So I just want folks to be aware that Node API gaining a lot of interest in Hermes and React Native community.
Nice. Yeah, it's good to hear that for sure. Okay, maybe so starting out on things and done, anything that anybody has to call out that we should chat about in the done column?
I think we can have a quick look at the first item.
This one? Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just closed this one minutes ago, and I'm not sure if there's any improvement in the document that we can say about promise, because I think it's quite a common pitfall that people might encounter to attach create a new promise via promise.then and forgot to attaching a catch handler and leaving that promise as dangling. So this will trigger the unhandled rejection and leads to the process exit. And people might be familiar with it in JavaScript, but it might not be super intuitive if people are writing C++. So yeah, it's just an idea that if we can do something better with promise documentation in Node.
Right. So it's that it was missing the on caught part.
Yeah. Well, it's not missing. I mean, they attach the uncaught handler on the promise, but via a independent catch code, which will create a separate promise object. So the issue here is that the promise created via .then and a fulfillment callback will create a dangling promise without the uncaught handler. I think that's a common JavaScript pitfall.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially, you only can have one continuation, if you will. Your continuation either kind of handles both on fulfillment or on code. Or if you want to do it separately, that you really need to change them. You need to say .then and then .catch. But .catch should be
Yeah,
out of result of .then. It's so
yeah.
technically it would only work this way. If you do, you can't have two continuations, I believe. Is what you're saying, right, Chanjo?
Uh, yeah, I think so. So in this case, the original code actually creates two separate promises
Right.
objects. Yeah, and one of them does not have a on-call handler, does not have a rejection handler.
Right. Yeah, either we need to provide both, like on fulfillment and on code, or we need to change them, like .then,
Yeah,
.code. So
Like
I mean,
in
it's a typical pattern like people use as far as I know.
yeah, in our documentation, I think that there is no word regarding how to public from the then or the catch. I shared the document link in the chat.
So do you think we need to create like a task to improve or this doc?
Yeah, I think so. But that would be a separate task from the original issue because the issue thinks that there's an there's a problem in the Node.js runtime that makes the promise dangling, but actually it's not a Node.js issue. It's an issue in the add-on code, and I think it's a separate task to improve the document to say how to properly perform the promise continuation in C++.
So we could create a new issue here, which is like,
Yeah, I think we should create a new issue to say that.
say, improve promise documentation with respect to continuations. Is that?
I think probably is promise.
So promise, sorry, so improve promise documentation with respect to,
Well, probably just improve promise documentation.
okay, sure, okay.
Yeah.
Based on team discussion in.
Also, I found that the promise object API that in Node add-on API does not provide a convenient then or catch wrapper. So, but we also do not have such API in the C API. So I think we could also mention in this issue that if we can improve the Node add-on API promise API. I shared the promise class link in the chat.
Oops, I opened it there, here.
Yeah, so we can see that in this API, we only defined the deferred API, which is the resolver for the promise that we created, but we don't have a wrapper for .then or .catch for a promise object that was not created by us, not created by user. So I mean, they can be definitely done with existing API. I think it's just a convenient wrapper for the common operations. So this could be an improvement as well.
Yeah, but you're thinking we would need to add here then in catch methods to make it more easily used?
Yeah, and I think that could also improve the user understanding that the then can accept two parameters, one for fulfillment and one for rejection. So that could also reduce the chance that people use it. Like the original issue found that they only invoke the .then with a single unfulfillment argument.
I think this is it also possible to just add a wrap in the C++ wrap or something that would make?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that we can just add it in C++ not add-on API
Okay.
package.
So it was noted that. Um, Yeah, and that would mean doesn't need to be backported and all that kind of stuff, and everybody could start using them if they're in the C++ wrapper, or everybody's using the C++
Yeah,
wrapper anyway. So.
yeah.
Okay, so does that make sense as an issue?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay.
Maybe it may be worth to kind of also mention that the documentation in for promise, like in JavaScript, just it would be nice if this C++ class some kind of aligns a bit with normal JavaScript API.
I'm not sure we can mirror all JavaScript promise API into C++ because you can find that there are many promise util functions right now on the JS promise object. So I don't think we can put all of them to C++. I mean, you can already do so by call the function JavaScript function directly, just like accessing the properties in C++.
But who told us to provide these wrappers as a part of C++ class? Like, I mean, it will be natural if we don't invent anything. We just simply say like, okay, look, we have this promise kind of helper methods in JavaScript, and we give you some fin wrappers on top of them, just for convenience. As we talk about like .zen, .catch convenience method, like why not to add the rest? Do you think it will be? I believe it will be useful. It's just if we do that.
And yeah, I'm not saying that for opposing the idea. I just said that saying it might be there might be there are APIs in JS land that are just added for not a long time, such as promise with resolvers. So we might need to be more cautious implementing the wrappers for these new APIs because they are not available in older Node.js releases. So if we add a wrapper for them, they might not work in these old versions of Node.
I see. I guess in this sense, it will be no difference from anything else. Like, yes, this function will just give you error, right?
I think there might be a understanding gap that people might assuming that if we have this method in C++, because we can compare it, they might assume that the method exists.
Okay,
I think I've hopefully captured this, like it's worth keeping the documentation consistent and maybe looking at some of the other methods would also make sense. Subject to Chenzong's caution that like some of the newer ones we might not want to do, but there might be some older ones that make total sense, I think, from my
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
So I'll add that there as well.
Do you think it makes sense to have a second task just to because this one will improve the documentation, right? But
Yeah.
do we already want another one to make that um, the then and catch on the C++ API?
Yeah,
Sorry,
we
would you
could
mind
move
to
these
repeat?
to a separate, like, these ones to a separate issue.
I think we can create a sub issue with the GitHub feature, like on the left bottom of the original poster. There's a create a sub issue button. It's on the left of the original post, the first post. Yeah, bottom left.
All right, I'm looking, create sub issue, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I push that,
Oh wow, I didn't know about it. It's a cool feature actually.
okay, so we'd say add, then, and catch methods to promise API, promise class, I guess.
Yeah, promise.
I guess my next question will be, can we assign this issue to Copilot to implement? Kidding.
It's that's another question I've been thinking about. Like, should we have a policy on AI generated code? But because I don't think I've seen any discussions on that. But that is probably something we need to do sometime soon.
I believe for some kind of low-hanging fruit tasks, this one is more difficult.
Yeah.
Like some mundane task, like it can be useful. We just need to learn how to use it.
To
Yeah,
create
and just
docs,
like say, yeah, we all agree that, yep, generated code is fine. This one, I don't think we need triage, do we?
I think we can make it as to
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, looks good.
And then sub issue, do I do? I'm gonna say to do as well. Okay. Anything more on this one we should chat about?
I think that looks good.
I think it's worth to maybe have a link to this issue from original issue created again, like which we just closed, like change on closed, just for the
Yeah.
developer to. Like, we
Right.
didn't ignore it, but we kind of decided to take action and to still kind of this was valuable suggestion. We kind of.
I think it's linked already.
Yeah, I think I did, but I'm just
Okay.
grabbing it. This one. Okay, let's.
I will try to take a look and see if I can take this, but
Cool.
I will let you know. Yeah.
Sounds good. If you want to just assign it to yourself once you take, if you decide you do want to look at it.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, create parent issue. So this one, yeah, I included the link there to say, here's the,
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
okay. Okay, any other ones in the done we should chat about? If not, we can go to has PR. I don't know if any of these ones we should chat about. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to jump to the API experimental progress first. It's already CI but given that it's sample major, we'll need another TLC approval. Michael, if you can approve it, we will be
Sure.
able to land it.
I will take a look.
Yeah, in the end, I just have to add another flag to look for Microsoft Visual one because the message it doesn't work there.
Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty straightforward and it's passed all the tests. So, okay. Yep.
Thanks. That was a cool one.
Yeah, thanks for working on that one. Okay. Any other ones these we should look at? Okay, in progress.
I think it was another one about something URL preservation or something, right?
Reserve URL file names without.
I've seen like a lot of people already sign off on it. It's just we need to kind of. I think it's only our group need to look at it.
Yeah, okay. If people could take a look at that one, that would be good. Let's see, what does it say? Allows us to process file names that are already URLs. Okay, well, it seems straightforward, although this, I guess, yeah, those failing checks are probably just flaky things. But yeah, people
It was a
could take.
to-do led by Gabriel, and I believe this developer just went ahead and implemented. So we one less to do to have in the source file.
Ah, right, yeah, okay. Ah, perfect. Okay. So yeah, I'll take a look at that one after our meeting too. These other ones we should look at. Just added the last couple. And then in terms of need triage. This one is fairly new, although maybe not that new. Could just use a review to see if we think it makes sense. I don't know, I guess, are there any ones here that are, let's see, maybe start at the bottom. Okay, last week.
I commented on this one.
Okay.
I think we should guide people to use the weak references if possible. But I mean, the object references in C++ and JS are different currently. The C++ are based on reference counting, so I don't think it's really possible to have a to have an identical behavior in Node add-on API unless we expose CPPGC, which I think it's quite impossible right now. So for the best outcome, I think what we can do is suggesting people to use the weak references.
Right. So the weak reference, because that, yeah, makes sense to me. Then if you have a strong reference to one of the objects.
Yeah. So the author has to decide which one will need to be the strong reference. Otherwise, they have to somehow keep both two objects alive via JavaScript references.
Right, but I guess it's like you could have, I was even thinking you could have two references that are weak that point to each other. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
you
not.
have to be careful.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, like one would need to be weak reference. I was thinking you could have like a one strong reference that pointed to a weak reference that then pointed to the other one, but that won't keep it alive. So it's.
Yeah.
You can always find your. If you do a wrapped object, do you get some of the same properties?
No, because the wrapped object fields are not visible to V8, so V8 cannot deduce
Right,
the
okay.
local references,
Right.
even with the persistent, even with the API reference class, because that's invisible to V8.
Right, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so that's why we were trying to migrate Node.js internals to CPVGC, because that will make Node.js internals circle references visible to V8, and V8 can decide if they can
Right.
object collect the wrap object.
You know, so if there was if there was a method on a wrapped object to say add a reference to another object, that would.
Yeah, that's only available in CPPGC, which is not a public API yet in Node API.
Right. Yeah, I know that we can't do it, but I was like, if we really thought this was needed, if you could make if there was a method to say, okay, like there is an object, you could make a reference, add a reference to it, right?
And I'm saying that I'm not sure I'm following.
Well, it's like, cause for a wrapped object, there is like an equivalent JavaScript object that would be cleaned up when it's not referenced at the JavaScript side of things, right?
Yeah.
And if we somehow in that JavaScript object added a reference, like I know I can't see the C links, but we could basically, if you had two wrapped objects, you could say like, I want to make this wrapped object point to this other wrapped object. And then, not necessarily through the APIs we have today, but if you manage to set that up, then that should keep them, like as long as one of them was referenced, it should keep the other one alive, right?
That's possible, yes.
So you could, and I guess you could even still do that by like making JavaScript calls today. Like running some JavaScript that would take the two wrapped object references and link them up. But
I mean, it's possible, but yeah, I think there was some past practice in Node.js internals that did the same. So yes, it is possible.
right. I guess it's like how important a use case is it? So yeah, using the weak reference is definitely but not necessarily going to be exactly the same.
Like as I was playing with references in Node API originally, I was surprised that it doesn't really match to what we see today, say in standard C++ libraries, and you have, for example, share PTR versus weak PTR. The big difference that we do allow to have weak reference, and our ref count becomes 0. The problem is that we don't have ref counted weak reference. It's what we're probably missing in our API, I believe. So imagine if we would have it in this case, like you can have potentially two different or three different C++ classes would hold into the same weak reference, and will not. It will be still safe in terms of the as long as this weak reference is alive, they'll be ref counted. They'll have something to work with, even that their target may be already kind of collected, but we'll never have dangling references or something.
Someone's at the front door.
The issue with weak references is that we will not expose garbage collection internals via our API. So you cannot use weak references just as shared pointers. So you will either have to declare it as a weak references or declare it as a root strong references. you cannot use it like a shared pointer because the references lifetime is pointed to the JavaScript objects, and the JavaScript objects are garbage collected. So I think it will be a mess if we kind of mixing the reference counting with the garbage collection based the garbage collection based JavaScript objects together in a same API. So I think the current weak references and strong references API are mirroring what V8 provides. And
I think like what I'm after, like probably it even possible to create a problem in C++ level, because we do have weak references, right? Like technically, if you look inside of a reference class, our reference class has a pointer to persistent, and persistent can be either weak or not weak, right? Like pretty much V8 API allows the same persistent object to be weak or not weak reference, right? And we kind of switch into weak mode, and ref count becomes 0. Right. What we just missing, like being able for people hold on to this weak reference, because currently it's only kind of single one. It's not because it's not ref counted anymore, but we can create very simple C++ wrapper on top of this weak reference, if you will.
Well, in this sense, the weak reference API object in node.js API is already kind of like the weak pointer or shared pointer, because you can keep the API object alive by setting it in another object field and access it via the deref method to see if the object is still alive, right?
Right, but we're missing a ref count for weak reference. So you see, like if you look at implementation on standard library, share PTR versus weak PTR, both of them ref counted. If you look on implementation of ref counting, they typically have two ref counters, like for shared kind of PTRs, right? One ref count is for weak ref counts, another one ref count for strong ref counts. But we technically have only one ref count, which kind of covers both. But we can simulate it. It's probably not a big deal.
I think there is a similar thing in Node.js core, but it's not exposed. Second. I'm not sure if it will really help in the case that you have been describing, but I can cross-referencing it here.
If I understand, Vladimir, what you're saying is there's a ref count that determines whether or not the object it points to is held alive or not, but there isn't a ref count that determines whether or not the like the actual thing itself that's pointing to the weak reference, like to the object, is kept alive.
Right. Like right now, like I believe our reference is so illogical, because technically you still have ref count, but you still have somehow like explicitly deleted. Whereas like as you see, like the way it's implemented in standard library, you essentially have some kind of imagine that you will have some kind of internal presentation which points to this persistent storage whatnot. And this guy effectively would have like two different ref counters. One of them talks about like this persistent storage to be alive or not, right? It kind of another would actually take care about saying that this thing itself is alive or not, like in terms of if say in our kind of code in C++ code, if nobody needs it anymore, we would automatically delete it. So without explicit delete call as we do today. So, but this is kind of this is the way how share PTR works. Like this liveliness of this object itself is what they consider to be weak ref count, because as soon as your strong ref count and weak ref count goes to 0, effectively this object can be deleted. Yeah, it's probably difficult to explain, hence, but
I shared
what
a
I'm saying
link
is
in the
just willingness
chat.
to improve.
sure.
I can propose improvement. I was like drafting several times for different
I
scenarios.
think what you have been describing is somewhat similar to this implementation in Node.js core, but it's only used internally.
Right. Yeah, but this one, like you said, it relies on a garbage collector. So I guess it's kind of it's alternative approach, if you will, right? We can simply expose some behavior for
It has an internal ref counting, so it's not purely running on the garbage collector. So you can see that on line 303, there is a pointer data. That pointer data has the reference counting. And pointer data is defined at line 211. Yeah.
Oh yes, so thank you. As soon as I see like a weak PTR count and strong PTR count, it sounds exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, because it's exactly how we share PTR implemented in start library. And in Node API, we're effectively missing this, I believe.
I think if we really want this, this can be implemented in our add-on API.
Right. Yeah, it's I guess it's what my question, like, do we want to improve it or not?
I'm not sure if people can. I mean, it could be an improvement, but I would like to see an example that why people would prefer this, because in Node.js core, we use this for wrapping a base object inside another base object. So, but there are many constraints on the base object implementation. I'm not sure if they can be applied on the object wrapper in Node add-on API, so that would be worth looking at.
But it sounds like, Vladimir, if you're interested, you could create an issue that explains
Yeah.
suggestion a little bit more, or if it's simple, a PR that would show what it would look like in that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Let me think through this stuff. Yes, and create issue. It's easy to kind of implement it, but the biggest question in my mind, like how to make it not contradict to what we have today. How we can actually make it. We already have this kind of finalizer PR, which stays like a couple of years already, like in experimental.
Yeah.
It's like kind of breaking the whole thing. It's very easy to make it breaking. The question, like how we can make it non-breaking.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on this one, I'm not sure if that would be related to this, or is it like you commented? Do we need to say anything else on this one, or just move it to?
I think it would be great to wait until the author get back to see if this is sufficient.
Okay, so we'll leave it on there. And then I think this. Okay, so this one was a while ago. I don't know if there's anything more.
Yeah, the last week we talked about this was that unless someone is willing to pull down the whole Rust project to see what's happening in Rust, Otherwise, we'll have to wait until they also get back to us with minimum C or C++ reproduction.
Okay.
Because from what I can tell, the Rusty Node API is kind of doing a lot of wrapper work. So the issue could be tangled with the Rust wrapper.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Then I don't think any of these other ones are new. I assume you either discussed them last week. Anything more? Any of the other ones we should dive into this week again, or?
I would like to bring up the first release issue, release progress.
This
It
one?
has been open for, yeah, it has been open for a month. Or, yeah, about a month. So I think it might be a good time to do a release.
Seems reasonable. Here I can add a. This one, I think it's basically if we land it, it will create the release now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So do we need to do anything other than just say sure and squash it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. We'll double check that the release goes out, but otherwise. Any other ones we should jump into? Okay, well, I guess if not, thanks for everybody's time, and we will see everybody in GitHub in another week or so.
Yep.
See ya.
See you.
Okay, everybody have a good
Bye.
week.